is the Extra Point Podcast from Arizona's family.
Well, Arizona State's basketball season coming to a conclusion over the weekend in Denver, Colorado. Bobby Hurley, one more year left on his contract, and a lot of questions right now about the future. So let's talk to a man who I think he can predict the future. The Athletic, Doug Haller of The Athletic. Great to see you, man. First of all, how are you doing? What's the state of Doug Haller right now?
Hey, Mark, appreciate you having me. I'm doing well. It's a busy time. I think, people know my role has changed at The Athletic. So instead of just focusing on Arizona State, I'm kind of focusing on the Sun, doing a lot of stuff with the Suns and the Cardinals as well. So it's a busy time, but it's been good. Yeah,
it's every time I go somewhere, I see you. I thought I was running around, and then I'm like, I think Doug's got me beat. So, but ASU has been your wheelhouse. You've been there forever. You've broken stories, and I mean, not forever. I don't want to make you sound too old. But at this point, Sun Devil basketball, in my opinion, I think they're in a decent place. What do you feel like is the state of Sun Devil basketball right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at Bobby Hurley just finished his 8th season. 3 NCAA tournaments, really 4 if you count the COVID year, which I think you should in this case. Mark, people ask me all the time, shouldn't this program be competing for Sweet 16s? And I'm like, well, tell me the last time they've done that. It's been since Bill Frieder was here, and I believe that was 1994, 95. So, I think the program is right where it's always been. It's been a bubble program, a basketball program that has, when it starts a season, I think that's the baseline, that NCAA tournament line. With a few good wins, they make it. With a few bad losses, they don't. I think Bobby's elevated in some regards. He's given a national presence just based on who he is and what he's done in his career. I think they've brought in good players, but there are obstacles for this program. It's not an easy job. And I think Bobby, for what he's done over 8 years, has done a good job to keep it where it is.
How much of an issue do you think it is right now that he only has that 1 year left on his contract?
It's the reason we're having this conversation. It's the reason everyone in the Valley, the media is talking about it. When you let a coach go down to where he only has a year left on his contract, that's a statement by the university. They won't come out and say that, but they've been in wait and see mode about whether or not they should extend Bobby. And what it does is it kind of handcuffs Bobby as a coach, particularly in recruiting, because when you go out and recruit kids these days, they want to know, are you going to be my coach? Are you going to be around even with the transfer portal? And Bobby doesn't have that assurance. So, when you let it, he really should have been extended probably earlier this season when they got off to a good start. That would have been a great time, maybe before that. But when you let it go this long, it creates problems. It sends a message to, I don't know this. I haven't had this conversation with Bobby, but I would imagine it sends the message to him that he's not, totally confident that he's wanted. I mean, if I were a coach and I was kind of dangling like that with 1 year on my contract, that's the message it would send me. So yeah, it creates this discussion that really is not beneficial for Arizona State basketball.
Well, and you look at the state of just the Pac-12 right now, and you don't know if it's going to be here tomorrow. So how much do you think the current state of what conference Arizona State is in factors into their basketball coach's contract?
That's a great question. I don't know if it factors much into the situation. I mean, gosh, it seems like all of college athletics is kind of in a fluid situation, and particularly the Pac-12. And it's a great point. I mean, there's just so much unknown. There's been a lot of speculation about going to the Big 12. As long as I've been around Michael Crow and Ray Anderson, I remember I floated that question to Ray Anderson, Mark, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I just brought it up and say, some people think that Arizona State would be better suited in the Big 12. And if I remember correctly, he didn't even let me get the full sentence out. And he said no. I did, in a conversation I had with Michael Crow, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, asked him the same question. And he said, we consider ourselves a West Coast school. This is kind of where we belong. And I just think, Arizona State has always been loyal, or Michael Crow in particular has always been loyal. He stuck beside Larry Scott for a long time, maybe too long. So I think the conference would really have to crumble for them to look elsewhere.
Now, I kind of feel like the house is on fire. And this is, I'm not in there every day working with the Pac-12, seeing what they see, but I look at a as far as just a basketball conference, and you've got a matchup with Kansas every year. You've got a matchup with TCU. You've got a matchup with Houston. And that's just basketball. And I think the Pac-12, I mean, for me, the writing is on the wall that two more schools at least are going to leave the Pac-12. Do you feel the same way? Is the house on fire? Should you run outside the house if you're a Pac-12 school member inside the house right now?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that you need to learn lessons from your experiences, and USC and UCLA's departure caught everyone by surprise. The two California schools, the two anchor schools in the Pac-12 did what was best for them. And it would be naive to think that no one else is going to do that no one else is going to follow suit. So when everyone says, and it's kind of odd that the Arizona president, spoke to so many media outlets, The Athletic included, with a message of solidarity. I think you just have to take that for what it is. And that's just words, a message for right now, because when it comes down to it, every school should be looking in their own self-interest. And of course, we're all waiting for the media rights deal. And I think that's what the schools are waiting for as well. What kind of media rights deal the Pac-12 can get. If you believe what's being reported, and there's a lot of stuff out there, it doesn't look great for the Pac-12, but, I think, if they get a good deal, I think there's a good chance the conference sticks together. If it's not a great deal, I think, it might be possible to see one or two schools leave, and then who knows what happens.
I mean, you've heard reports and with the, different issues, different HR issues, that Ray Anderson and Bobby Hurley do not have the greatest relationship. When you look at that, how much do you think that factors in the fact that he's not been extended?
I don't know how much it factors into him not being extended. I do know that what you said is true. They have not had the best relationship, and it goes back to the situation a few years ago with Bart Ware, the prominent booster who was accused of acting inappropriately toward various wives within the program, an associate athletic director's wife, Bobby Hurley's wife. And when it was brought to the attention, reportedly, we don't have this is all still being kind of ironed out. But Ray Anderson did not act quickly enough and appeared to side with the booster over the concerns of what was being presented to him. Now, the only thing we know as a fact is that Arizona State did issue a statement saying that Ray Anderson should have acted a little more quickly than what he did, which is pretty, which isn't great. So yeah, I mean, I think it probably started there. Bobby dashed off an email to Ray when Bart Ware was still around the program, and that went public. And so I do know that it wasn't good then. The relationship improved a little bit over the years, but I don't think it's ever been great since then. And if it comes down to it, how comfortable are you in a job where you don't know, you just don't know. You don't have a great relationship with your boss. I remember I wrote when Dave Cohen, who used to be the basketball administrator who was involved in all this, who sent the initial complaint to Ray about Bart Ware, when he was fired from the program, I wrote something that said, like, who does Bobby have now who has his back in the program? And, when I wrote that was published, I did get some pushback from the ASU people saying we support Bobby and Bobby has all the support he needs. But I still wondered that. I mean, does he have somebody who has his back in the program? And, it may not affect anything now, but it's got to be in the back of his mind about whether or not this is the right place for him and if he can continue to succeed or build in a place like that.
Well, it seems like it could be one of those all-time Arizona sports stories too, where, said athlete or coach leaves here and then goes on to big time success, and it just seems like there are certain pitfalls, and like you were talking about, a lot of hoops to jump through over there that maybe you don't realize until you get inside there. Michael Crow recently said that he feels like the basketball arena is one that you can win at. I mean, what's been kind of the reaction to that as you've kind of asked around?
Not favorable, Mark. Not favorable. I mean, you've been there. It's an old facility.
Great bones, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And, I've gone back and researched this before, just going through the archives. Bill Frieder, when he got hired at ASU back in the 90s, called that facility outdated. So that's how long ago it was. Michael Crow used the word functional to kind of describe it. And I agree, it is functional. But do you want your program? Do you want your basketball facility to be functional? It really doesn't work. Yeah, it can host a basketball game, but you know how it works. You got to use it. It's got to be used in recruiting. I was having a conversation not long ago someone who objected about Bobby's style of play. And yeah, he plays an open style. He lets his guards have tremendous freedom, with going back to Remy Martin and some of the questionable shots. Sometimes it leads to questionable shots. This year's team shared the ball really well. But yeah, I understand that. But, and I try to explain, I'm like, okay, say if you're the head coach at Arizona State, what do you have to sell to recruits? You can't sell facilities. You can't say, come here and play in this great basketball arena that we have. You can't sell a great game day atmosphere, even though the crowd has improved. It's not sold out every night, right? You can't sell tradition. Arizona State doesn't have a great basketball tradition. You can't sell a program that sends all these guys to the NBA, even though Bobby has sent Lou Dort and a few other guys. Zylan Cheatham has had some time in the NBA, Rob Edwards. It's not something that happens, like Arizona or some other schools. So, I mean, basically it's style. It's like, come here and we'll let you play with freedom. So, and when I explained it like that, the person said, well, okay, that makes sense. Bobby's never had trouble getting guards because they like to play that style. But, and I say that just to kind of illustrate that there are a lot of hurdles into winning at Arizona State, and maybe with the facility and the resources that you put into it, maybe the best that you can do is just get into the tournament, and if you want to aspire to Sweet 16s, you need to put more resources into it to reflect that. So, I've been in Arizona for 20 years. I've seen one Arizona State team advance to the second round, and that was with James Harden. So what we've seen so far is Arizona State doing what Arizona State can, given the resources that it's given.
Right, and I mean that's in the current state of college basketball. You could be in there this year. You could be out the next 2 years. I mean, look at Kentucky, Duke, and North Carolina. This is only the second time since 1985. All three of those teams have not been part of the Sweet 16. It is changing rapidly, and I look at the caliber of athletes that Bobby has gotten into the program, and I think. And I'm not here to just defend Bobby Hurley. I mean, I think that I hope it doesn't come across that way. I just think it's worth discussing. What's the elephant in the room, why he doesn't have a contract extension. But I feel like the caliber of the athlete has improved since he's gotten here. Is that a fair thing to say?
Without question, yeah. And you could probably go back with the recruiting rankings and, whether guys are 4 stars or whatever. Yeah, I think they've improved. Some people have thought that this was the best team that he's had. I didn't think so. I thought the year, I believe it was 18 and 19, when he had Lou Dort and Remy, Zylan Cheatham, Rob Edwards. I thought that was the best team that he's had. Yeah, I mean,
they were playing after the Fiesta Bowl to be number 1 in the nation down in Tucson, if I remember correctly.
That was 17-18. Yeah, for sure. The year that I thought they did so, or was his best team, is when they were the second seed in the Pac-12 tournament, and Remy Martin got hurt against Oregon in the semifinals in Vegas. I think if Remy Martin stays healthy, they end up losing that game in overtime. I think they might have had a chance to win the Pac-12 tournament. But and I agree with you. If Bobby, going into this tournament, I think it was reasonable to say, okay, has Arizona State done as much as it can with Bobby, given the fact that they finished playing their best basketball, which is what every coach wants, that they, had a decent showing in the Pac-12 tournament. They won the games that they needed to win. They beat Arizona before that. And the fact that they won the first 4, I think that tips the scales in his favor. But I do want people to understand that just because if they decide to make a move, if Bobby decides he doesn't want to come back, however this unfolds, just because you go out and get another coach, I'm not sure anything's going to change. I think it'll still be the same situation because of, as I mentioned, the hurdles in place.
No, totally agree with that. If I had one criticism of Bobby Hurley, I do think he gets a little too worked up on the sidelines, and I think by the end of the year, this team tunes him out because it's just too much, and it just needs to be a little calmer and save those big moments to get thrown out. I mean, it's great video when he gets thrown out, but I think it just wears a team out over time.
He has come pretty far from where he was. I don't know if you remember when he first got here. I mean, he was kind of like a baseball, like a manager in baseball arguing with an umpire, with his hat turned backwards and, the old Earl Weaver days. But yeah, I think he's come around. I don't know if it affects the players. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever asked him. Well, I haven't asked him recently. So, but I know he's made a lot of improvement in that area.
All right, so we turn our attention to another one of your interests, another place that you go, and I wish I had better news, but yeah, we got to kind of dive into what's wrong with the Suns. I guess level of concern right now. I put out a Twitter poll, and is your level of concern high, medium, low, or quit being dramatic? Where would you be on that scale right now if you're looking at the Suns and the week ahead, and if they can stay out of the play-in?
Yeah, it's growing. I would say medium. What are they, 2-4 without Kevin Durant? So I think everyone, especially with the first 3 games, given the schedule, expected some rough patches. The fact that we're coming off the game against Oklahoma City, a game that they led by 10-12 the entire way and then just collapsed in the fourth quarter. That's concerning, even though they didn't have DeAndre Ayton as well. My concern is, like everybody, is okay, when does Kevin Durant come back? And if he comes back and you have let's say he comes back in 5 games. Well, he hasn't played in 3 weeks. He's super talented, so he'll be able to shake off the rust. He did it last time. But we never got a feel for how it's all going to really look with him on the court in the first place. We get wrapped up with the Dallas win, which was an amazing game. But Dallas is just a few games over 500 anyway. They struggled to beat Chicago. They struggled to beat Charlotte. So you could see the potential. And my goodness, the way Monty had Devin and Kevin Durant at separate times on the second team. So you thought, wow, they may play the entire game with one of those two on the floor the entire way. You could see the potential in that. But my issue is, is this shaping up to be with his injury? Are they just going to fight to kind of get it together in the playoffs this year, lose, and then next year will be the year we'll get to see the full effect of Kevin Durant in Phoenix? That's where I'm kind of going at this point.
Yeah, the pressure will be on. I think they this summer is going to be interesting as they really add to the bench and add to the depth, and Matt Ishbia might go on a spending spree there, and that would certainly ratchet it up. But going back to the Durant injury, was that the most Arizona sports story that you've covered, or what does it rank?
Well, I mean, my goodness. Without question, the most Arizona thing that I can think of. I was just sitting out there like many of us were, just watching him warm up, and he was out there with Terrence Ross, I believe, if I remember correctly, just the two of them. And, he was putting in some work, and then all of a sudden, to me, it looked like he slipped. I know his ankle turned, but I thought he did slip initially, and that caused his ankle to turn. But it was just like, what did I just see? Did he just totally just all by himself out here fall? And, then he went and worked out and seemed to be okay. I thought maybe he was, favoring it just a little bit, but, and then going up and getting ready for the game and seeing the release of the starters come out and see that he was out. It was amazing. It was amazing that something like that happened on a night like that.
Do you think like that we built the city on like hallowed ground, or are we cursed? Like what? How do you process this whole thing? And for Kevin Durant, I mean, I hope he hurt his ankle. We hope he's okay. But why does this always happens to us, Phoenix sports fans?
Yeah, I try not to feed into that too much, Mark, but it's hard to argue this one. I mean, because there was such a buildup. I went on the road with him a little bit for his first game in Charlotte, and just walking from my hotel to the arena before the game. And this is in Charlotte, a road game at their hotel, the team hotel. There's like 100 people lined up waiting to see the Suns come out. And I asked them, like, this isn't normal, right? And they're like, no, this is all Kevin Durant. So yeah, I mean, just think of what the excitement level is like here. And you could tell it meant something to him, the way he was warming up, and then for that to happen, it's just, I don't know what if it's a curse or what, but that is extreme. That is crazy.
I mean, Santonio Holmes in the Super Bowl. You could go shot heard around the world in 1976, and they lost to the Celtics. You could go I mean, the Zach Greinke first game where it all kind of went south. I mean, we could be here. Maybe this is another podcast. So
Game 7 last year against Dallas. What was that? That's still unbelievable to me. The fact, not that they lost, just how they lost. The fact it was 30 points in the first half. That's crazy.
Do you think we'll ever get an explanation of what happened? There's a strict code of silence. It just seems like a brotherhood there. Jay Crowder wouldn't even talk about it when he went to Milwaukee.
Yeah, you're right. There's a little bit, Jay Crowder saying that he gave his word that he wouldn't, disclose too much. There seems to be something more there for sure. Whether or not I think we'll find out at some point. Steve Nash getting body checked. We didn't mention that one against the Spurs in San Antonio. I was also in the building for that one. So yeah, maybe it's me. I don't know.
Were you there for Ronick's broken jaw back in the 90s for the Coyotes against the Blues?
No, that predates me. I was not here for that one.
All right. What about the Rose Bowl where ASU had the Rose Bowl one, and then Joe Germain from Mesa Mountain View High School beats the Sun Devils?
Yeah, I've watched that one several times. I was not here for that. I've watched it several times. I watched it with Danny Gonzalez, the former ASU defensive coordinator. We went through that final few minutes. A lot of people thought Arizona State kind of went into a prevent defense. He didn't think so. He thought they still tried to get pressure on the quarterback, but yeah, it just seems like they can never, outside of the Diamondbacks, when they beat the Yankees in 2001. So other than that, yeah, bad luck.
All right. Well, that's all stuff to write about in The Athletic. And will you be covering the NFL owners meetings next week? And what do you expect? What kind of news do you expect to come for the Cardinals as all the NFL comes to town?
It's a great question. I do have a credential for that. I don't know what my role will be. I still think from, Michael Bidwill, we still need to find out his reaction to the Players Association survey. And, because that was, I wouldn't say shocking, the poor marks. I'm talking about the Cardinals got, the survey, what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then Byron Murphy this weekend said, now it's all you can eat with the Vikings. And here's the thing. I mean, and it is a bad look. But I do think Michael Bidwell here, for being fair, just helped lead, the Super Bowl effort and the economic impact, and really brought a great thing to Arizona. So the blowback he's getting here, it doesn't look good, but I think we're discounting what the Super Bowl just did for Arizona.
Well, no question. It was an amazing event, and of course he's right in the middle of that. So, you're right, no doubt about that. It's not a good look. I think it would just be interesting to hear how he responds to that.
No, I totally agree, and I think that changes are going to have to be made with the facility, and I do wonder if there will be a whole, everybody come in and we'll give everybody a meal, show everybody how we eat, and we will hear a lot of players talking about, I just had a great meal over at work.
and fix the weight room floor. We can't have players in the weight room tripping over the floor. I guess that was a problem. But yeah, and Jonathan Gannon was asked about it. I wasn't there, but he was asked about it, and he said that part of the conversations that he had with Cardinals leadership was getting a fresh set of eyes on things, and sometimes that makes a big difference. So so changes could be on the way, and we just don't know about it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm kind of bracing for impact this next year that things won't go. Well, based on the free agency, what they've done in free agency, which hasn't been a whole lot, I'm bracing for not a very good season next season. But what do you think still could be done in free agency to maybe change that narrative a little bit?
Well, no, I agree with what you said. And I think a part of that is with Kyler Murray's situation, not knowing when he'll be back, not wanting to rush his recovery from the ACL injury. So, if you think he might be down a month into next season, it makes sense to go slow. And it seems like they're really taking strides to, not overspend right now, to fill in slots with guys that they know that they can depend on, maybe who has not proven themselves at a high level in the NFL, but maybe has a little bit more upside that they're willing to bet on. So I think that's probably the smart approach given, Kyler's situation and given all the needs. My goodness, I just did a mock draft for The Athletic where I went through and picked at every spot all 8 draft selections who the Cardinals should take. after the first couple, it's hard because they have so many needs. I mean, pass rushing, corner. If DeAndre Hopkins gets traded, receiver. Offensive line, always. They just have so many needs. I don't know. They're not going to be able to cover it all in one draft. I don't think so. I think it's smart that they're taking this type of approach and not kind of, going all in on a couple players, because I just don't think it'll make a difference. They need the long-term view at this point.
Did you have the draft board there in your like living room? Were you going through it like a GM?
I had my big board up in the living room, of course. Best available. Yeah. No, I probably spent more time on that than I've spent on any story. Like it was like on day 3, I'm like, okay, I just have got to get this done. And I know a lot of people, I end up, should they trade? Should they not trade? I think it makes sense to trade, Mark, obviously, if you could get more draft selections, build your team. But I'm a big fan of Will Anderson. I feel like if there's a talent like that available and you have a chance to grab him, maybe you should grab him and worry about everything else later. So it'll be interesting to see if they make a move or if they stay at 3, because I think they have a chance to get a great player.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that one. So what's the next big story coming out? What other projects are you working on over there at The Athletic?
A few things. One, I'll be monitoring just the Bobby Hurley situation, which I imagine there'll be some sort of resolution soon. You would think if they're going to extend him, this would be the week to do it. And there's going to be some other college basketball jobs opening. Will Bobby's name? I know his name's already been floated for the Providence job. I can't see that happening, because I can't see Bobby going to a conference and going against his brother twice a year and recruit against him. Dan being at UConn. So probably just that, some other NFL draft stuff, and of course, with the Suns, I have some things coming up, but just don't want to reveal them quite yet.
No, we will be watching, listening, monitoring your Twitter. We appreciate the time, and stay safe out there as you go from thing to thing to thing.
All right, Mark. I appreciate you having me.
The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS 5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.